Welcome back, everyone, to this evening's edition of Lehigh Valley Sports Scene. Dan Freemuth back now, and very pleased to be joined by Kristi Fulkerson. Kristi, we are just 24 hours away from the start of a new high school football season. I have one very simple question for you. Are you ready for some football?
Oh, my God. Well, I thought it was going to be a hard question. I feel like that's more of a rhetorical question because who's
fair.
not ready for high school football? So excited for our first week lineup. We're spoiled a little bit,
really
right?
are,
A couple of
yes.
awesome games on Friday night. We've got one of the best rivalries in Easton and Parkland. That'll be a game coming up on 9:02 tomorrow night. And, of course, a rematch of the District 11 6A Championship, Freedom and Emmaus. That'll be our game on 5:50 Friday. And why have two games when you can have three? Because we've got Allentown Central Catholic and Liberty coming up on Saturday. So it's going to be an awesome kickoff to the weekend. I have a lot of questions for you, Dan, as we get into this segment here, but I'm going to start with an easy one. You've got 18 options. I need to know who your team to watch is in the East Penn Conference. 18
options, no easy selection, especially when you think about the EPC South, and any one of those 9 teams could win a district title this year. You have to consider Freedom, defending district champs. You have to consider Emmaus, defending district runners-up. And you can never count Parkland out of the equation because they just reload year after year after year. But my team to watch in the EPC comes from Nazareth. Now, the Blue Eagles finished only 7-4 overall a season ago, but they qualified for the district tournament yet again, and they lost a 1-point heartbreaker in the opening round of districts to eventual district runner-up in Emmaus. That was a 20-19 ball game. You're seeing some highlights from that contest right here. The key for Nazareth this year is they bring back, well, first of all, anytime you return a starting quarterback, that's a huge point in your favor, especially when so many teams around you are having to reboot at the quarterback position. Sonny Sasso is back after nearly 1,900 yards passing and 15 passing touchdowns, 9 of which went for 30 or more yards. He also ran for nearly 300 yards and scored 5 rushing touchdowns. And he's got guys back to throw the rock to. Mason Keener had almost 700 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. Nolan Lobb, who only made it through 5 weeks before he was injured, had over 400 yards receiving and a handful of touchdowns. They bring back 3 starting offensive linemen from a season ago, and they've got a veteran head coach in Tom Falzone, who is now about to enter his 9th season at the helm of the Blue Eagles. So much to like that's going on at Nazareth. Blue Eagles, my team to watch in the EPC.
You talked an awful lot about offense there. Their defense was best in the EPC South last
Also
year,
true.
so some returners, of course, coming back on that side. You mentioned Falzone, 7 consecutive seasons in the postseason, so
a lot of points in their favor.
I like the choice.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
let's shift gears to the Colonial League. We know that they teamed up with the Schuylkill League last year. 3 new head coaches, Wilson, Palisades, Panther Valley. Who maybe is a team to watch for you from the Colonial League?
I think honorable mentions go to Bangor. Slater's won 7 ball games a season ago. First winning season in nearly a decade. I think they're going to be much improved even off that mark. And Notre Dame Green Pond, always competitive. But my team to watch in the Colonial Schuylkill League, Northwestern Lehigh. You know, we talk about new coaches, but how about Josh Snyder, back for his 11th season at the helm of the Tigers, and this guy just keeps producing a winning product year after year after year. Now, yes, they're going to have to replace that young man right there in Justin Holmes. He's about to start his freshman year at Kent State, but they still have a number of skilled positions left over from a team that produced the first ever undefeated regular season in Northwestern Lehigh football program history. They finished 11-1 overall, tripped up in the district finals by Central Catholic. That's 2 years now in a row they've lost the district final to the Vikings, and 3 straight postseason exits courtesy of Central, so maybe a revenge factor there for the Tigers. But as part of that undefeated regular season a year ago, they outscored their opposition 376 to 132. They only had 2 games in the regular season that were decided by single digits. I mentioned having to replace Justin Holmes. That's going to come via Cade Christopher, who was a wide receiver a year ago, who caught 34 balls for 670 yards and 11 touchdowns. Coach Snyder is saying basically, look, he's our most athletic, our most skilled player. So instead of getting him the ball a number of times during the game via runs or passes, we're just going to put the ball in his hands all the time, and good things will happen. So Northwestern Lehigh under 11-year head coach Josh Snyder, my team to watch in the Colonial Schuylkill League.
Not a bad pick. Defending Gold Division champions in the Colonial and Schuylkill League. And, of course, they're going to open the year with Tamaqua week 1, and then Northern Lehigh in week 2, which is a game we're going to have for you here on Service Electric on September 1st. That's a Thursday night game. We're actually going to have Bangor and Jim Thorpe as well, courtesy of Blue Ridge 13. So pretty cool to have some Thursday, Friday, and Saturday action coming up in week 2. All right, so we've talked about EPC, Colonial League teams to watch. We're going to shift to some individual talk now, and again, so many options when it comes to the East Penn Conference. We lost a lot of talent, but there's so many good players still here to stay. Tell me who your player to watch is. You only get one, Dan.
I know.
Just
I'm going to go with some honorable mentions here as well, because it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yes.
It really is. Kareem Bryce, wide receiver at Liberty. He's a stud. Owen Johnson was the most valuable player for Freedom in the district final a year ago, and he's back. And Griffin Patridge over at Allentown Central Catholic, a 3-sport athlete, excels in all of them. He's one to watch for the Vikings. My player to watch in the EPC has to be running back from Whitehall, Nigel Litton. Now, we got just a glimpse of what this guy is capable of a season ago because he lost basically 2/3 of his season due to injury. But before that happened, can I interest you in this? 3 touchdowns week 1 against Pocono Mountain West. 2 touchdowns week 2 against Bethlehem Catholic. On a night when it was supposed to be Saquon Barkley's night for jersey retirement in week 3 a year ago, it was Nigel Litton who stole the show with 3 TDs in that showdown against Liberty. He then had a 73-yard touchdown run week 4 against Jimenez before he was hurt and lost the remainder of his season. Now, Whitehall only finished 4-7 overall a year ago, but they opened the season 3-0 out of the chute, and a big reason why, the play of Nigel Litton. He's explosive, he's athletic, he's physical, he's everything you want from a workhorse running back. Last year, he had to split time with DeMonte Foreman. Foreman no longer in the picture, so it's the Nigel Litton show for Matt Seneca and the Zephyrs.
I was at that game with the Saquon jersey retirement, and workhorse is exactly the word that comes to mind. He was everywhere on the field. He made such a difference, and of course, his team then on the losing end of that OT thriller to decide the District 11 5A championship, and you know that one hurts. So nice to have him back and healthy. We'll see what they can do. They open the year against Bethlehem Catholic. That'll be a good test to get things going for the Zephyrs and Linton. All right, let's go back to the Colonial League. Again, tons of players, tons of talent. Who's your player to watch?
All right, 2 honorable mentions first. One I already touched on, Cade Christopher. I mentioned wide receiver turned quarterback at Northwestern Lehigh. That's going to be an interesting transition to watch. A guy who's back under center this season at Palmerton, Matt Mahalik. All this guy did was produce touchdowns and numbers a season ago, and he's back for the Blue Bombers. But I'm going to stick at the quarterback position. I mentioned the Slaters are going to be a turnaround group this season. I think a big reason why is going to be signal caller Eric Stryba. Talk about a guy who can run the rock from the quarterback position. Stryba passing last season was good. 677 yards through the air and 7 touchdowns. But how about 154 carries for nearly 1,300 yards and 19 rushing touchdowns? You see the athleticism on display. He's a big guy with a big arm. You have to respect that, and all that's going to do is open up rushing opportunities for Stryba. This is a Slaters team that carried the ball for over 3,000 total yards a season ago. Now, graduated tailback Cale Godshalk was a big part of that, but so too was Stryba. And more points in his and the Slaters' favor. Coach Paul Raduzzi's group returns its entire starting offensive line coming up here in 2022. You want signals for a team that's going to transition well from one season to the next? If you can tell me you're going to bring back your starting quarterback and your entire starting offensive line and you finished 7-4 a year ago, I think only brighter days ahead for Stryba and the Slaters.
And we don't talk enough about offensive line and the job that so many of our players and teams do in that area, because that's where the game is won and lost.
One in the trenches.
Yeah, and everyone talks about it. We don't have as flashy highlights to show you of the guys in the trenches, that's for sure, but you're right, that's where it all starts, and that's huge. Coach Raduzzi, year number 4 now with the Bangor Slaters, looking forward to see what they can do. All right, always a few teams that fly under the radar and impress by season's end. Let's go to some dark horses starting the East Penn Conference.
No honorable mentions here because I just flat out picked 2 of them, just right out of the chute. The first one, Central Catholic. I know you're thinking dark horse, Central Catholic, perennial contender, but they lost some key pieces from a season ago, a year in which they went 9-4 and, oh, by the way, won their 2nd straight district championship. They will have 2 quarterbacks available this season. Tamlin Ferguson threw for nearly 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns a season ago, but look for Matt Keys to also get involved. But this is a team that, for the most part, is going to want to run the football. And why? Because Travis Foster is back. He have better than 500 yards and 7 touchdowns a season ago. And so is Caden Schaefer. He have nearly 750 yards and 10 TDs a year ago. They lost LaVon Johnson. You cannot replace a player like that. But plenty of skilled guys left to put up points. And I already mentioned Griffin Patridge and how dangerous he is. The other dark horse team in the EPC, how about Bethlehem Catholic? Only 2 victories a season ago. Week 3 against Pocono Mountain West, Week 5 against Liberty. But how about all these close calls for Kyle Haas's group last season? Lost Week 1 against Northampton by 3. Lost Week 4 against Nazareth by 1. 83 combined points in that ball game, by the way. End of the season, they were still close. Week 9, 3-point loss to Freedom. Week 10, a 10-point loss to Central Catholic. Those 4 losses alone by just a combined 17 points. And they've got some key returners. Zaire Morris in the backfield is back. 2 dynamic wide receivers in Jaden Ellis-Leahy and Eric Work. And how about now senior Ramel Terry? Lost his entire junior season due to an ACL injury. He was dynamic in the backfield as a sophomore. Got a year off, he's healed, he's healthy, and I think ready to do some serious business in the backfield here in 2022.
I like the Becca pick. 2 wins last year, dark horse for sure, but they bring back the talent. And losing games by those tight margins, that's extra motivation coming to a new year.
Yeah,
and for sure, I was thinking dark horse Allentown Central Catholic.
That's why I had to throw another one in there. I know.
But they lose talent, right?
Yes.
And every year you're rebuilding. You know, say what you will about that word, but when it comes to high school football, guys graduate. It's just, you know,
and they didn't just lose
is.
talent. They lost LaVon Johnson, who's the most dominant player at any position in the entire EPC, the entire Lehigh Valley a season ago.
All right, so we talked EPC dark horses. You got 2. We're going to limit you to 1 because we're going to run out of time if we keep going here in the Colonial League. We talked about Northwestern Lehigh. Their only loss last year to Central Catholic. I'm sure they'd love another shot there. Notre Dame Green Pond always in the mix. But who's your dark horse out of the Colonial League?
You already mentioned this team. It's Northwestern's Week 2 opponent. I mentioned the Tigers only won 2 regular season games by single digits. The closest one was Week 2 against Northern Lehigh. And the Bulldogs are my dark horse team out of the Colonial Schuylkill League this season. Now, again, Kristi, you're going to be saying, whoa, dark horse? They were a district champ. Not only that, they reached the semifinals of the PIAA tournament. But this team lost some big-time talent, including record-setting quarterback Dylan Smoyer. So a lot has to be replaced for Joe Tout's group. Nick Frame is actually going to move from wide receiver to under center. He'll fill the quarterback position this season. He had 550 total yards a season ago. He's a guy who plays 2 ways. At a school like Northern Lehigh, the roster's a lot smaller than your Parklands, your Freedoms, your Emmaus's. Guys have to play 2 ways. A guy like Nick Frame, mentioned his numbers on offense, also had 86 tackles and 5 interceptions a season ago. AJ Jimenez, another big-time player on offense, he has to move from fullback to halfback this season. This is the kind of roster juggling that has to take place at a small school like Northern Lehigh when you lose some of the big names, the Matt Frames, the Dylan Smoyers that this group had a season ago. But if anybody can reload on the fly like that, it's veteran head coach Joe Tout, the longest tenured head coach, Colonial League, EPC, you name it, in the Valley. He's the longest tenured head football coach.
And we may be slightly biased, but they've got a pretty good defensive coach on their side too. Parm Long, he might be one of ours. But you're right, that's a good point.
Dancing skills aside.
Dancing skills aside at Music Fest, you might know him on the stage, you know, getting all the cool shots of all the bands. But really cool. Thanks for giving us your insight. So much to look forward to. We are just about 24 hours away from our first high school football of the 2022 season. Can't wait. And again, senetwork.tv will have you up to date on our schedule both this weekend and throughout the season. 3
games this weekend. Freedom Emmaus, Easton Parkland, I'll be at that one, and then Liberty Central on Saturday, as Kristi mentioned, senetwork.tv for our live schedule online anytime. We're going to let Kristi go. I'm back to put a wrap on tonight's show right after this.